This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Here are your hosts, Steve Collins and Greg Berg.
All right, welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast, episode 3. I'll let you know when I get to my lucky number, Coach. We haven't gotten to it.
All right.
Because we're both math
Not
teachers.
3?
Not 3. It's not 3. It's not 3. I'll let you know. Yeah, we're both math teachers, and we obviously like numbers and things like that. But so today's topic, we're going to talk about a book that has kind of influenced you, or you think is relative to the leadership kind of world. And
Yeah,
I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a great book. I'd encourage everyone to peek at it. It's called The Captain Class by Sam Walker. And I'll give you a quick summary. Sam Walker worked for the Wall Street Journal, which you wouldn't think is going to write a book like this, but he had a passion for sports. And so he spent a decade researching the most successful dynasties in the history of all sport, from the New Zealand All Blacks to the San Antonio Spurs to the Boston Celtics to the U.S. women's national soccer team. And once he narrowed down 16 dynasties, he wanted to find out why. And so he dug in over this decade and he talked to people. And what he found out, it was pretty amazing. You would think that maybe these teams had this dynamic coach or they had this superstar player. And really what he found out is every single one of these teams had a leader that had very, very similar characteristics. And so from a basketball standpoint, people like Tim Duncan, Bill Russell, other athletes like Tom Brady, Carla Overbeck of the U.S. women's national soccer team, they're all very similar in their characteristics. And so what did he find out? Number one, they are incredibly competitive people. They were not the most talented people on the team. They had to work for everything they got. They were very aggressive in how they played. They almost bent the rules. They were so competitive to win. They did all the little jobs. Okay. They were servant leaders. They did the little things behind the scenes for their team. They were very kind of low key and practical, almost introverts, almost behind the scenes a little bit. They weren't those players that were at the forefront always and kind of the superstar, the extroverted type player. They were masters of nonverbal communication. And so just a look or, whatever it may be. And they were very strong on their convictions and their courage. I mean, they held their teammates accountable incredibly well. They were very passionate about that. And they had a very high emotional intelligence. And so there were 7 characteristics he came up with.
Did he say one was more important than the other?
He didn't say necessarily one more important than the other, but when you think of all the people that he referenced in the book, Tim Duncan is a quiet behind the scenes, even keel, but he was the hardest worker on that team, and he refused to let anyone else on that team work below his standard. Bill Russell, same way. Tom Brady, I mean, Tom Brady was a backup quarterback on an 0-8 C squad football team. He's had to work for everything he's gotten in his life. And he has a standard that is so high. I mean, I listened to something this weekend where they're talking about Bill Belichick and how, great of a coach he is. And someone referenced, what's his record since Tom Brady left? It's below 500.
Right.
Tom Brady goes to another team. He wins a Super Bowl. Tom Brady is a phenomenal leader that pulls people along with him. And then the one that I think, and not a basketball player, but Carla Overbeck on the U.S. Women's National Soccer team in the late 90s. We could spend a whole episode on her. Arguably, maybe the best leader in the history of all sport. When you look at her success, it's unbelievable. And she's this quiet, unassuming person behind the scenes. So
I love The Captain's Class is the name of the book by
correct.
Sam. Well, I will put it down in the show notes. So if people are jogging or driving, don't stop the car or do anything like that if you're driving. So I'm thinking back to my state championship teams. I'm thinking back to my state teams. And, we were talking about Wesley earlier, obviously a great leader.
Yep.
But they were never the biggest extroverts. I'm just thinking of the characteristics you described, and then those people and all my championship teams, they all had one of those. And I'm going to tell you something about my family is we can't play competitive. I mean, we don't play card games together. And when we were kids, we couldn't play games because my brother and I are super competitive. It was just we just couldn't do it. Like, we could do it against other people, but as a family, it would never end well because we all wanted to win so badly. But it's kind of that hidden fire, I think. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe that. But it's
100%. It's exactly, if you think of the people in this book that he found and you relate it to our teams, and they're so committed and they are such hard workers. And they've had to work for everything they get. Nothing has come real easy for them. Everything has been earned for these leaders. And because they have this commitment and this competitiveness and this desire to win, they absolutely refuse to let their teammates do anything below that standard. Right. And, Michael Jordan probably isn't in the book, but he could be thrown in there too. And how tough he was on his teammates in a good way to pull them up.
Right.
And so it's a great book that really talks about leadership. And when we relate it to our own teams, I think about it the same way. A lot of the best leaders I've had are, they're quiet, they're behind the scenes, but they are incredibly competitive and they're able to think beyond themselves and pull people with them. And I've had some
great players that aren't great leaders, and we've won, but we haven't won. You know what I mean?
You know what the stats say on that? 20% of the time, your best player is your best leader. It's about 20% when people have looked at that. Yep. It's not. And yet that's one of the challenges we have with selecting, and we'll talk about this as we go, selecting leaders and team captains. Kids think best player, captain, best player, leader. We got to break kids of that thinking. Like we would all love our best player to be our best leader. It's just not realistic.
Doesn't always happen. And it's like, we're going to do a topic on that because it's like, absolutely. That's a huge aspect, but go through those 7 traits again. So people can
incredibly competitive, very aggressive in their play, borderline push the boundaries of,
dirty,
the rules.
I'll say borderline dirty, but they're not.
They're playing to win. Do all the little things, the little jobs, very low key and practical in their approach. Masters of nonverbal communication, strong convictions and courage. They're able to hold people accountable because of that. And then just a high emotional intelligence. Last episode, with itness, same concept, real high emotional IQ. So great book. I encourage you to peek at it, but very applicable to us as coaches.
Awesome. Yes. And I'll put it down in the show notes. And until next week, Coach,